All right. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this, not streamed Duckworks because, it's 2:30 in the morning here. Nobody's going to be watching anyway. So, we have a lovely December patch to talk about. Lots and lots of lovely changes have come in. 4 brand spanking new ships. Gas 4, tug of war systems, new cash shop items. Holy crap, guys, where do we start? Oh yeah, upgrades. Oh my god. Where do we start? I don't know. 4 new ships. Let's start with the new ships. We've got the Gladiator, brand new Xeric heavy. We've got the Black Widow, a stealthy missile-based ship from USR. We have the Persecutor, a blinky hunter killer from TDS, and the Interceptor, which is kind of another version of the Reaper. A little bit. I'm okay with that. So yeah, let's start with the Gladiator. Fantastic ship to play. Not the most dynamic ship out there, I think. You're not going to be doing anything particularly crazy, but that's okay because you're freaking invincible.
And it has a lot of that element that all the other heavies do, where you need to know ahead of time where you're going to be needed and when you need to activate your stuff and make sure you've got that armor and gun placement ready to go before it's actually required for you to do your job. So it still does have that same heavy skill set, but when you plant yourself, you are a rock. And it is very difficult to move you.
I don't know about. I'd like to think of it more as a large boulder on a nice thin veneer of Vaseline that's slowly sliding downhill. There's no stopping it. It's gonna go where it's gonna go, and gravity's gonna take it. And even if you don't have a Corvette with you, Protector with you. It just a playtest I did earlier on with Zared. It's kind of like, okay, I could probably use a heal. 5 minutes later, sitting there fighting 3 things. Hey Zared, how about that heal? I'm in another lane. I'm good.
I've really been meaning to try and get a game with Protector, Displacer, and Gladiator, and just plant that Phalanx armor and have the Displacer push you down the lane. Like your own battering ram of doom as it slowly inches its way towards the enemy.
That'd be pretty scary.
How much ramming damage would that? How great would that be if Phalanx armor increased ramming damage?
Well, that could be brutal.
Yeah, that would be great.
Introducing fractured space billiards.
Or what's that ice game in the Winter Olympics where they
curling?
Sweep? Yeah, thank you.
Oh, fractured space curling. Okay, meme thread. Get on it.
Yes,
it
do it.
Even looks sort of like a puck, vaguely from the side.
Sort of, more so like a sports car
or paddle
in a squisher thing.
Yeah, it's a plank. Plank. Yes.
Yeah.
But it's a fantastic ship. Personally, I don't have any problems with it. Like I've been trying. I always try and find something to complain about with ships, and I don't really have anything to complain about with the Gladiator, which feels super weird because I can nitpick the other 3 just fine, but not the Gladiator.
I'm not a super fan of it not being able to jump while Phalanx armor is up, combined with it having that really long cooldown. So if I'm planted in Alpha, I have to drop my Phalanx armor way in advance of gas coming up. Not just so I can get in the capture sphere, but just so I can jump there. And
quite honestly, a minute is a very short time. I mean, it goes by pretty quick. By the time you chuck it down, spend the 5, 6 seconds jumping and then landing in the location, orienting yourself, and then chugging yourself to the center of Gamma, well, shield's already pretty much recharged.
Mm-hmm.
It's not incredibly long. It may seem like that if you accidentally throw it down in a fight because visibility is bad. Other than that, traveling around, you can throw it down, you can put it back up. It's not terrible.
Yeah, and then you would also run into the problem of people just kind of
Keeping it up all the time.
You know, we've all played games with, you know, that infiltrator or that ghost, you know, where I'm gonna capture your forward base, then jump to your home base, then jump to your other forward base, and you're just gonna chase me for 10 minutes, right? Mm-hmm. Could you imagine doing that with a gladiator? I mean, it doesn't move very fast, but it moves just fast enough that it would be incredibly annoying to deal with.
Yeah.
And
I think shaving a few seconds off would be all right, though.
That's what the utility upgrade is for. Instead of it's okay. Do you want to go all tank and just, you know, be unkillable, or do you want to be slightly more killable with a shorter cooldown? You know, that's where the upgrade system is coming in. It's giving you those decisions, and I mean, it already scales down with levels anyway. So, to me, I think the cooldown is okay. It feels bad when you're playing it because I'm not invincible for a whole minute. This is terrible. But I mean, you're still a really tanky ship because in order to get to the weak points on the armor of the Gladiator, you have to open yourself up to its full battery of fire. So unless you're, quite frankly, the Venture, or because the Scythe Beam is a little bit too limited to hit the top or the bottom of the Gladiator. So unless you're a Venture, you're really kind of SOL.
Now, some of the closer range can get on top of it, but it brings you into that proximity mine range, and
yeah,
those can hurt, especially if he's already dumped a full clip around him and has been recharging that clip.
Mm-hmm.
I've watched people go from full to dead in 15 seconds because the Gladiator had all charges sitting out there ready to go and a full stack just waiting for some poor sucker to try and jump them.
Mm-hmm.
Now, with that, for the people first tuning into this stream and treating it like a patch preview and an intro to the new patch, as it's just come out, really, the Gladiator is mainly a broadside ship that is lined with a whole metric ton of guns just all over the side of the ship. So broadsiding is the best way to go about any sort of combat with a ship. Its angle of deflection is about 10 to 15 degrees on the side to where you can hit with 100% of your guns. 50% of the guns is okay, but you really want to get the 100% target. Mm-hmm. Also has a nice complement of missiles, bombers, proximity mines, which are in an ammo clip style, so you can choose how many you want to chuck out. It's quite nice. And generally, it's able to park itself next to a destroyer and reliably kill the destroyer every time. So it's got the power to do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a fantastic ship, and
it's solid.
Yeah,
it does its job. It does what it was intended to do, and I personally have no complaints.
Yeah, I mean it's not the most exciting ship out there, but it's not supposed to be exciting
it's
because it's not supposed to be exciting because of what you're doing. It's supposed to be exciting because of what you're living through. Right? You're supposed to live through 3 of the enemy team beating on you for 30 seconds, and it does that. And,
it does.
And, like...
while still being able to punish the other team for ignoring you if that's what they choose.
Yeah.
And a lot of the ways the Leviathan tries to be, but doesn't quite consistently pull off.
Yeah. I mean, it's probably the only ship that I in memory, it's the only ship that I can think of that right as soon as it launched, people were able to get, and it doesn't feel overpowered. It doesn't feel like, okay, what do I have to do to deal with this ship? It's
this is good.
Yeah,
this is in a nice place.
Yeah, it's just okay, it's gonna shoot me, so I need to avoid the places where it's gonna shoot me. Crap, it's got a lot of armor there. okay, I've got a decision to make, and that is the extent of people having to learn how to deal with it. And
It does
that's
feel like the best balanced ship on launch
yeah, and
that they've come out with, which
that's
is especially considering they've come out with twice the usual number of ships. That's pretty impressive. The best balanced one on release so far is one of these four monsters.
yeah, and that's so. We start off on a good note. So let's go to a slightly. Do we want to go to a bad note or to another good note?
What do you think is
I would-
bad?
I would like to move on to the Interceptor.
The Interceptor.
Because
That's
I
a
have,
good note.
have experience with that now and would like to go over some points about it. So, again, for those of you just tuning into the stream, looking for patch preview information, the Interceptor is sort of a multi-role fighter, and it's kind of, sort of like the mini, almost big sister, stepbrother to the Reaper in a whole lot of ways with added mechanics. The main primary weapon has a heat system, and it's essentially a spool-up weapon, but the spool-up is very short. It's got large burst DPS on the spool-up weapon. Just like the Reaper, it's very rapid fire. However, it does not sustain the full rate of fire and will overheat eventually, and then the weapon has to go down cooldown. So its damage is a bit higher, but you do have to wait for the cooldown if you overheat the weapon.
Yeah. So the Interceptor is another ship that, at least to me, seems pretty good on launch. There's some stuff I can nitpick about it. First and foremost, being the UI element for the overheating. It is two things that just bug the UI is a really big bugbear for me. Because it communicates everything that you need to know. And right now, for the overheat mechanic, you've got this tiny little icon that's up in the corner of where you're normally supposed to be looking, but it's just far enough out that you have to one, look for it because it's so damn small, and two, take your eyes off of combat. You have to go, okay, how overheating am I? Okay.
Not to mention that both the background of the indicator and the foreground of the indicator are just two varying shades of red.
Yeah. I mean, it's a difficult thing to read. I mean, it's obviously it needs to be there, but I would like to see it in one of two different forms, where we have either a red bar that travels up behind our health on the left side of the screen that just travels up behind it. You know,
Or nice. Shove it over on the right.
Yeah, so it could go on the right, or I would like to see the crosshair start progressively turning red on the outside. You know,
that would also
synonymous to how much heat you have. So that way you don't have to take your eyes so far out of combat in order to see what's going on. Because I mean, for the health or your energy, you've already kind of got your peripheral vision working on those to begin with. With the crosshair, you're always staring at your crosshair.
See, and I'd also like to have a system maybe just right next to the current heat indicator with, you know, an actual number metric, you know, 15/45 or whatever, so I can track very closely. I'm one of those, I'm an old MMO player. Mm-hmm. I'm used to being able to just quickly pull out bits of information like that on the UI, and it lets me get that little bit extra I might not get with a bar. But I certainly would also like to have the bar just for a general idea.
Mm-hmm. So,
now, with that overheat mechanic, it also comes with another weapon complement that is very, very like the Scythe Beam, only much more single-targeted and a little devastating. It does a sizable portion of damage. Mm-hmm. So if you all were here for previous Scythe Beam nerf, where you could kind of gently caress the side of a enemy vessel's hull and then push the scythe button, and that vessel was no longer there anymore. It's a lot. It feels a lot like that.
Yeah.
So, in instance of this weapon, I had floated up behind a carrier. I was shooting it. I took down the rear armor, and then started charging this targeted blast Gauss cannon. And the carrier then went from 75% health to roughly 20% health, hitting broken armor with this weapon, sub level 5, which is a very hard kick in the shin. So it's strong. It has its fall off. It has a damage fall off at range. I was very excited for a moment and nailed the low health protector at 20k and was expecting it to vanish, but only dealt like 300 damage, so I was a little disappointed in that. But we can't all have our cake. It's a good weapon, though. It feels solid. It's fun to use. It's got a limited firing arc, so it's not completely overpowered. The thing has to be positioned, and it also slows your vessel when you go to charge the beam. So you actually have to be methodical about it. You have to sit still for a second, plan your shot, and risk getting shot in the face by a sniper.
I really like how, while both ships seem, both the Interceptor and the Reaper, I should clarify, seem to be very similar to each other, they both take a different approach to killing a target. Whereas the Reaper is more like, I'm just going to constantly break your armor with the scythe beam and then chew away at you with pretty good sustained damage. The Infiltrator says, no, I'm going to hit you in the face and do a monstrous burst and just rip great bleeding chunks out of your hull. If you can survive long enough, then yeah, I'm going to have to wait until I can do it again, or sit there and put some sustained DPS into you. But
The damage is
I'm
done.
generally going to take a big walloping, bleeding hunk of your hide, and then you're going to have to deal with that.
It really, it kind of feels like the difference between a chainsaw and one of those like really big two-person saws that you always see lumberjacks using. Yeah, that two-person saw is very effective and it's going to get through stuff in a reasonable amount of time. But that buzzsaw, though, that
Buzzsaw is gonna run out of gas, but that's like 10 trees later.
yeah, and I want to see a couple of guys get together and really start playing those ships together, because they just complement each other too well, especially with the concussion missiles that the Interceptor comes with. Those are just they do okay damage. I mean, they're not super great like the Reaper missiles are, but they silence you for a second, and that is absolutely terrifying. I mean, you've got for instance, there have been several times where a hunter I've been engaged with, it's like, okay, I'm ready to shoot you with my railgun. I'm going to charge it up, and you're just going to jump away. Or I have these wonderful concussion missiles that will keep you sat still just long enough so that I can finish it with this rail shot. It is there. It's. I think it's great that to have the concussion effect on those missiles and have those two ships really seem like, lore-wise, you would always see them in a pair.
Or paired interceptors would also be utterly frightening. Just that ability to swat somebody.
We've gone over this time and time again. Anytime a ship is independently strong, it becomes absolutely horrifying in pairs. That's just synonymous with reality. Anything that's independent is horrifying in pairs. Anything that's kind of okay might have a good complement, might form one cohesive unit. But this ship, get two of them together, and horrible things are going to happen.
It's like the the original Enforcer back when it does really good burst damage now, but it did really, really, really good burst damage when it first came out. And
Or or the infiltrator. Like it did great on its own until you saw two of them there, and you saw both of the bubbles coming down, and you're sitting there like,
Yeah.
I don't like you.
Yeah, you wouldn't
That's
die.
a 15K burst about to eat me.
Yeah, it wouldn't always kill you, but then they had those, what is it, like 200 DPS slug cannons with a really fast fire rate. Those will finish you off real quick. So, let's see, what else can I nitpick about? The gun placement on the interceptor for the railgun. I'm a little torn.
The Gauss.
The Gauss cannon, because as cool as it is, it doesn't seem like you would actually design a ship to have this huge freaking cannon just kind of hanging off the side of its face. I would have rather had it.
Maybe a lot of the targets are just left. Maybe that's the ship's life. The ship's life is shoot left.
Well, like as far as like more sensible cannon placement, I would have had it like on the back of the ship, so that way it could still have the limited firing arc, but it would kind of make more sense placement wise for the weapon. But on the flip side of that, having the gun like in a realistically silly position makes it slightly more readable at a distance. So that way, at a glance, you can go, okay, that is quite clearly not a Reaper. It has to be, an interceptor. So that way, it makes it easier to tell what it is at a glance. Readability is something that's very important in faster paced situations. It's not something I suppose you encounter as much with Fractured Space, since it moves a lot slower than a lot of other MOBAs do. You don't have really a whole lot of just supplies and you're dead. You mean unless there's a ghost and you're jumping, and even then you aren't guaranteed to die. It's just very likely. Like for instance, the Venture has a very similar hull to the Hunter, and at a glance, you might mistake one for the other, but I don't know. I suppose that's just me nitpicking.
Long, awkward silence.
Yeah. I had a point, and then I argued
had a point, and it was gone.
And then I argued my own point away. Oh no, I know one. Interceptor, the name.
Yes, the name.
The interceptor doesn't intercept anything. It's not fast.
It's not fast. But here's where it comes into a pitfall. It's not an assassin. Mm-hmm. It's kind of an assassin. Mm-hmm. It's not a tanky brawler. It's sort of a tanky brawler. It's not a sniper. It can shoot something from 20k and really hurt, but it's not a sniper. It's not an interceptor, because that role is better filled by
the Equalizer.
Equalizer, that one.
Raider to a lesser extent.
It's more of a raider, but you could say the same thing of like the Reaper. The Reaper has a nice name for what it is. It's good. It's a Reaper, but Interceptor falls back to their original. We want to get away from naming ships after a class, and Interceptor is a class. I feel that it probably could have a slightly different name in the future. They feel like revising it, revisiting it. I mean, I would even be happy with it being called Enhanced Play-Doh at this point.
I actually sitting there just thinking about it. It's like, it would actually totally work to swap the names of the Equalizer and the Interceptor, because the Equalizer kind of does do the whole intercepting thing. I mean,
yes,
you could.
But they're trying to get away from names as roles.
Yeah,
or roles as names. Yes, that's the one. That's the way.
Roles as names, and Interceptor.
Draw it. Name it. Give us a name.
The other Reaper.
The other Reaper. Zared.
Oh, Harvester.
Harvester. Not bad. Actually, very not bad.
It fits. I figured play off the Reaper. Why not? I'm going to harvest your corpse. Yay! All right. Do you guys have anything you want to bring up about the Interceptor?
All right, we got it.
I think we covered most points with the intercept. It's
Okay.
maneuverable. It's versatile. It will really, really sting if it gets into places you don't want it to be. Um, yeah, it's good. It's fairly decent. Can't wait to see what it comes with the balance.
All right, and then let's keep it. Let's keep it in the same manufacturer, and let's move on to the Persecutor, which seems like a really cool ship. So the Persecutor is a ship that heavily relies on the new magazine mechanic, where you have limited amounts of various things. Right now, you have a magazine blink and a magazine for the main weapon, where the blink holds maximum of 3 charges, which you can use in very quick succession. But after that, you have to wait for them to recharge. The main cannon, which is a shotgun Gauss style thing that is really good at close range, and once you get to medium, it's not good at all. Holds about 20 charges, and those charges are eaten through rather quickly. So you can jump on top of somebody, dispense as much ammo as you can as quickly as you can, and do really good DPS. But as soon as you run out of ammo, you're not doing anything really. It also has a lovely nuke ability, which we will talk about here in a second, where you kind of disable yourself for a second and then plop out this nuke that does an amount of damage. It has an energy drain that's locked to its forward arc, which we'll also talk about that here in a second. But probably the most interesting ability from my point of view is it has a mobility suppression ability, which is an AoE that everybody that is hit by it, including the Persecutor, so you're going to be not hurting yourself, but you will be limiting yourself when you use this. It disables all movement abilities, so all blinks, all boosts, anything. It disables all of that for 5 or 8 seconds, something like that. Which, to me, that's something that's really cool. The other 2 abilities, the energy drain and the poop nuke. I'm sorry, I'm going to call it the poop nuke forever and always. I'm sorry. Those don't seem to fit. I see what the point was with the energy drain, where it's a ship that you're going to be using a lot of energy and you want to be able to drain to keep doing all of your stuff. But I personally have never really run into a situation where I ran out of energy and wasn't going to die.
Yeah.
I mean, the only time I seem to run out of energy is when I'm about to explode. So
I've had a couple of cases, but I mean, you're talking to the point where I've had sustained fights in Gamma. I've gone through all 20 charges of my of the main cannon 2 minutes ago, and I'm still in the fight. Yes, I'm out of energy, but everyone would be out of energy at this point.
Yeah.
I can't blink, but yeah, there wasn't even really a time for me to get that energy beam or the energy drain into the right arc on a target so I could even use it. It doesn't feel pressing. By the time I'm out of energy, I've used up all my my blink charges, so I don't need that. I'm on top of my target. I really don't need that shutdown yet for the mobility suppression, and I'm not going to be pooping a nuke at the moment. So it really doesn't feel like I need the energy drain when I hit that 0 energy. I can just either wait to finish the fight and then recover my energy, or I can wait until I need it and then decide, okay, maybe I'll just use the energy drain because reasons.
Yeah. It's I think part of what really kills it is the fact that you are limited to the front arc. You have to be forward facing. And I get that that's a little bit of a theme for USR, but I
TDS.
mean, TDS. Wow, GG Zared. I get that that's a little bit of a theme for TDS, but on a ship where your whole thing is supposed to be, hey, I'm crazy mobile, it doesn't really make sense that you're going to be sitting there going, okay, I have my forward arc at you, and I'm going to keep my forward arc at you for 20 seconds while I drain energy, and you're shooting me, and this is not very comfortable right now, but I need this energy. Come on, you're not draining a whole lot of energy. I'm kind of screwed over right now. It just.
Well, I think it drains plenty of energy when you use it. It just, I never really feel that, holy cow, I need to activate this drain so that I can blink 3 more times and chase after this protector. And with it being that forward arc, all the weapons we have with that kind of a narrow forward arc, they're offensive. It's the Gauss, it's the Scythe Beam, Fusion Beam. All those are forward-facing things. So it feels like it should be a massive energy drain where I'm not getting any energy back, but I'm denying my target that. And it goes towards working with that mobility suppression where I'm going to blink on top of you, pin you down with suppression, suck your energy away, make you stand here and fight me. And I think that would be a really interesting dynamic to play with.
So kind of, if I'm remembering the numbers right, what I think it gives you 3 energy for every 1 energy that you drain. So if that was just flipped, and we're draining 3 energy, but we're only getting 1 energy out of it, that would turn it into an offensive ability and would give you a tactical reason to use it. Because I mean, you jump in on a hunter, you suppress his mobility, you start wailing away on him. You also start draining his energy away. So by the time if you're lucky, your mobility drain, by the time it's done, you've already drinking all of his milkshake, and he still can't escape from you. I mean, maybe that would end up being too much, but I mean, we could use something to help bring the hunter down a notch or two.
Yeah, and there is a bit of concern that in the process, you just raffle stomp on the day of everyone who already has energy issues by having yet another close range combat ship that can jump on top of you, suck away your milkshake, and then melt your face off.
Yeah.
But yeah, the hunter
do we
can use a
have
soft
to
counter.
refer to their energy pools as their milkshakes?
It brings all the boys to the yard.
It really does.
You too. Continue.
It's not my fault it's better than yours.
He could teach you.
Have to charge, though.
All right, we need to stop this. On to the poop jokes. I mean you.
The poop nuke. Oh, okay. So, the poop nuke is, on its own, just a giant mine that explodes and does damage. I don't think it has any other effect than that. And I don't think it necessarily needs any other effect than that.
I think it has a shutdown attack.
I know it shuts you down if you get hit by your own nuke. I don't know if it shuts down enemy players. I mean, quite frankly, I don't use it very often because while you are charging up the nuke to actually drop it, everything for you is disabled. So you are actively weakening yourself whenever you choose to use this ability.
Well, I think it kind of works with the magazine on that main weapon a bit, where especially if I'm going to be popping behind cover to get a couple of charges, I can drop this thing that's going to still smack you from the other side of the station, ignore your cover, your screen, whatever, and it's not really going to impact my overall DPS because I'm still recharging shots. So I don't think it's terrible. It doesn't feel like it works with the rest of the kit. I mean, yeah, okay, so you're jumping on a target and you're pooping a bomb out right next to him and playing hot potato. And on top of mobility suppression saying, okay, now you can't run away either.
Yeah.
But the damage isn't like ferocious, and it feels like there was the potential for doing a almost suicide bomber type blink on top of you, suppress you, drop the nuke, and we all die
Yeah.
kind of ship. And that potential got stapled onto the back end of the Persecutor.
Yeah.
I think it would be better served to be like its own independent concept.
Yeah, it really the energy beam makes a little bit of sense. The poop nuke really just feels like it was tacked on. Like
What do you think of maybe instead of just doing the damage that it was a gravitational effect, that it pulled everything in like a reverse displace?
That could be cool. The other option that I would think of is instead of just one big nuke, is you drop like an entire like minefield. So instead of kind of like just shoot four out of either side of your ship after not shutting your ship down for a couple seconds, because I mean that would still give you something to do while or after you dispense all of your energy, kind of a
So
last
wait,
hurrah. But
let me get this straight. When you go to use the nuke, your ship shuts down for a second.
yes, you hit the nuke button, you can do nothing but move for a few seconds.
Okay, so what is this nuke? Is it kind of like everyone goes and frantically shuts off all the light switch, and there's one guy in the hangar bay pushing a dolly? Shh, he's sleeping.
Kind of. I mean that's another big sticking point, is in order to use this super big, doesn't really do a whole lot of damage nuke, you shut yourself down. And it feels like what you're supposed to be doing with it is either like waiting until all of your energy is down or all of your ammo is down, then using it and leaving the fight, or coming in the middle of a fight, dropping it, and then getting out, and then like poking at medium range. But none of those scenarios, at least to me, feel good.
Yeah.
Like
If you're trying to deny the enemy from being in that area, it's too big an area and it's too little damage to punish them for being there. If it's trying to just do an added chunk of damage, it's shutting your weapons off, and uh, basically how it works, it just doesn't jive with that element. And so it's like I'm not feeling what the ability's intent is. I kind of get, like you were saying, that it's part of the, well, just jump in there, and as you're brawling or as you run out of energy, pop this off and maybe get a finishing blow. But even then, why not just have me with a bunch of like Raven missiles, something that's very quick, or Kingfisher type, where very quick does very little damage but huge bonuses against broken armor or something.
yeah, have a skua type where the
Yeah,
missile itself doesn't do any damage, but it's going to shrek your armor.
yeah, something that was a little more interesting or worked towards that specific element. It just kind of feels like the poop nuke is a little unsure of what it's supposed to be.
Yeah. So that is to me, the biggest weak point on that ship.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, in overall, it feels like one of those ships that came out, was way overpowered, got nerfed in the hot fix, and it's a little bit below, but they're kind of waiting to see how the metrics pan out before buffing it a little. So it feels like it's in kind of that little gray area where it's not quite performing where it should. Like, its kit works really well, nuke aside, and to a point drain aside, but it just quite doesn't quite have that power that you'd expect that type of ship to have.
yeah. You're supposed to be, I suppose, kind of playing it like a cross between the hunter and the assassin. At least that's where I've had my success with it, where you're just waiting to pounce on somebody. You pounce on them, and you chew on them. You know, you're not exploding people. You're not destroying their armor. You're not doing crazy DPS. You're threatening, and it feels like you should be a little bit more threatening, right? Especially with a name like Persecutor. I mean, you're supposed to you're supposed to be bringing down the hammer, right?
It certainly feels like one of those ships that, by the name, where if it gets on you, it just sits there and you cannot shake it. And I've had times where, particularly in a Black Widow, where I've managed to dodge so much of his fire, despite him, being at 5k from me, that he's ran through all 20 shots of his magazine and only did half my health. But I just could never quite shake him off of me. And like that felt like it, but I mean, by the time he runs through those 20 charges at 5k range, even with me evading, I'm in a medium, he probably should have killed me by that point, not just half my health. It kind of feels like, yeah, I evaded well, but that feels a little short.
So maybe a little bit more accuracy on the main weapon.
Little less spread, I think.
Yeah, yeah, just that little bit would help it out. Maybe make it do less damage overall, but more damage to armor. Because that would kind of like because what it's like a shotgun railgun type thing. So it's like it lends to the fantasy of, okay, you're basically shredding people's armor at close range. And I mean, if you're going to chew through the armor relatively quickly, that would get you into the meat and cause you to do more damage quickly that way. I don't know. It doesn't seem like it gets through armor very quickly as it is, and I think that feels a little backwards to me. That would give it a little bit of team play, because right now besides the mobility suppression, it doesn't really feel like a team play style ship. It feels like a ship that waits for its team to do something and then it comes in. It feels like the fifth wheel or the third wheel.
Well,
An extra wheel.
it is Xeric, though, and that's kind of been their shtick. It's
TDS.
very. It is a TDS.
I'm not the only
Wow,
one.
It feels like it's a Xeric ship where it should just be solo. It doesn't quite feel like the TDS style,
Yeah.
even for like a single target. Basically, jump you, rip your face off kind of ship. But I think just overall it lacked. It needed a little bit more focus on its role, and a little more decision-oriented choices for how its abilities would work towards that. It's not a bad ship. I think it needs a little bit more to it.
Yeah, it's a solid ship. It's a solid concept. It just kind of feels like a couple of the abilities. It's freaking hard to design abilities for ships. As anybody that has tried to like sit down and actually flesh something out on the ship idea forums knows, it's actually pretty hard to come up with a full kit for a ship. And two of the abilities on the Persecutor currently feel like they were tacked on because we need two more abilities. I mean, what are we gonna do? So, meh.
Does that leave us with the Widow?
That leaves that leads us on to the Black Widow, which is very interesting for multiple reasons. It is a stealth ship that doesn't have perfect stealth like the other two stealth ships in the game does right now. If you get within 3.75 kilometers of somebody, your cloak drops permanently. You will still be draining energy, you will still count as cloaked, but you will be visible and targetable and all that lovely, oh my god, people can see me-ness that goes on with not being cloaked. It also is almost pure missiles, which is something that people have asked for. personally, I think it's a little weird on a stealth ship. I mean, it makes sense, but it feels strange because we're used to the two stealth ships that were in the game previously, the Ghost and the Infiltrator, where the Ghost kind of just popped out and surprised you with a crap ton of rockets to your face, and the Infiltrator was this slow build up where you would have the ion drones pop on top of you, and you're like, oh God, I have to deal with this now. And part of the strength of the ship was its ability to make people go for God. Could you just go away, please?
Could you not?
Yeah.
Can we do this another time?
Yes.
I need to get the thing.
I'm busy. Can we infiltrate later? Thank you. Right? Whereas the Black Widow, with its missiles, to me, doesn't feel as good as it could. And mainly that is due straight up to the missiles. You've got 3 missile types currently. You've got on your right button, you've got missiles that are really fast, and they also do a little bit of energy drain. On 2, you have missiles that are relatively fast and do decent armor damage and decent regular damage, but better armor damage. And on 3, you've got really, really slow missiles that do a crap ton of damage, and that I, at least personally, never seem to be able to hit with.
I don't think anybody ever actually hits with them.
Yeah.
You know what I would vastly enjoy in this ship concept? For me, what would work absolutely the best and be the most fun and be somewhat fair is not an FOF missile system, an actually targeted, guided missile system to give the ship a reason to cloak. So it's got a target. But because it doesn't need to lock its target, it can be like, okay, I'm going to fire silos 1, 2, and 3. I'm going to fire all the missiles. Missiles start headed towards the target. Then that lets you recloak and paint the target with the missile marker. As long as you're painting the target, the missiles will go on target. But give them a turn time. Give them a turn radius, so that if someone wants to dodge these things, they can be like, oh, look, missiles. I'm going to irk myself this way and actually be able to move out of the way. So maybe remove the ability to point defense these things. That would make a more coherent stealth ship. It has a reason to hide itself as it's painting the target. But it's also fair because now missiles are coming from this direction, and someone's like, there's a cloaked ship somewhere over there. I don't know exactly where. That's why it's cloaked. But it's over there somewhere.
Now, from my place, I can actually pull that off fairly well in the Widow, where specifically popping off a volley of Sparrowhawks and then Horus. And by the time the Horus are done firing, cloaks pretty much back off a cooldown. I might pop Vulture, but like Zara said, they never really hit anything anyway. So if they'll let me pop off those missiles and they don't turn and respond, I'll just cloak again. And now you've got these missiles coming in. Yeah, you can activate your point defense. And some of those will get through and do a little bit of damage and be annoying. But it's mostly I just got to take free pot shots at you and recloak, and there's not a whole lot you get to do about it. Especially if I'm engaging from 15k. Your Reaper's going to have to turn around to face me, and before he can even hope to get shots on me to maybe knock me out of cloak.
Yeah. It is.
But would you enjoy that idea of a guided munition system that you actually have to steer and paint the target, worried about them turning out of the way instead of just locking on and launching the FOFs?
Fly by wire.
I think having just like a couple of, if instead it's weapons were a couple of very powerful torpedoes that I did have to bring in on target. Yeah, I could do it well cloaked if they let me, but the idea was to just not let me. Yeah, I could have fun with that. I have fun with the Widow, but I also would have fun with that concept as well. I don't think that they necessarily should be exclusive to each other, or that they have to be the same ship, or however you want to look at it.
Mm-hmm.
I think you could have the Widow as it is now and still have what you're pitching, Fox, and still have them be two different things.
Yeah. That's something I've wanted to see specifically for a fly-by-wire ship was missiles that were really freaking huge that would like be constructed inside of your ship, and then you would launch it out, and it would be so big that your point defense couldn't handle it. You would have to shoot the missile coming in, right? And then your play could come from, okay, what kind of warhead do I want to use? Okay, I got to get behind this rock and shoot him where he's not looking, because it would be relatively easy to just smash up a giant missile, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that is something I would like to see. I don't think it fits on the Black Widow simply because it's similar to the Ghost in it's supposed to pop out and surprise and here's a whole bunch of damage, but it's supposed to do it from quite a ways away as opposed to right next to you, which is what the Ghost does. Currently, though, it doesn't do a very good job of that, especially that it's a big stickler for me. Those big slow missiles that are supposed to be your main damage dealers. I mean, like a big thing for me was when I was sitting down to like figure out the ship, I looked at the tooltips for everything. And I was okay, wow, these missiles have a 14K range and travel 3,600 kilometers an hour. I mean, or they're really freaking fast. They're faster than the Vulture missiles on 2. Wow, this is great. They have a really short range and they travel very slowly. I mean, they are the missiles from the
Pioneer.
Oh, Pioneer. Thank you. It starts with a P. There's so many of those now. But yeah,
those are just like slow little fireworks that blossom out, and it's like, hey, I'm threatening. Hey, and point defense me.
They really, I think they do fine on the Pioneer because they're not there to do.
The brunt of the damage.
Yeah, they're not there to do the brunt of the damage. They're there so you can punish people that have made mistakes. Right. Whereas with the Black Widow, you can do some okay damage if you get a full volley of all your missiles off, but unless those vultures hit, you're missing out on a lot.
I almost always use the vultures to basically to spoof point defense. I'll fire them at a target when they're in that 15K range because they'll get the chirp for incoming missiles and they'll activate their point defense. But they're so slow. They last forever, sure, but they only go out to about 8K.
Mm-hmm.
So they're going to be draining significant chunks of their point defense without it ever getting close enough to change that chirp tone to being the immediate incoming sound.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll wait for those to just about to be finished and then fire off the Sparrowhawks. And the Sparrowhawks will be coming in just as their point defense is starting to run out of energy.
Mm-hmm.
Because while it now has no cooldown, it does still have that energy bar and you have to reactivate it.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people won't pay attention to the fact that they have a constant stream of incoming missiles and forget to reactivate it.
Yeah.
So they'll have gone through a significant portion of their energy just as those Sparrowhawks hit, drain another big chunk of energy, and that's when the Horus missiles, which I usually use as the workhorse for my damage, those will come in, shred your armor, do a couple thousand damage, and then I'll look.
Mm-hmm.
And basically wait for everything to start coming off cooldown again. I really would be interested in seeing what it would be like if those vultures were usable enough that I could actually use them as something besides a trick to drain point defense energy.
Maybe instead of the missiles from the Pioneer, maybe the missiles from the Venture, those plasma dot ones,
mm-hmm.
or Kingfishers would be nice. Anything other than those missiles would be great.
Kingfishers would be interesting because then the Widow becomes very bad at close range. I mean, it becomes utterly trash. Yes, you still have that flak defense, but very low DPS, very small area of effect. It's for shooting down incoming missiles in bomber squadrons, not for trying to destroy an enemy ship that's beating on you. I mean, unless it's a raider, you're pretty much not going to kill somebody with those.
Yeah, I mean, you shouldn't be using your flak on enemy ships unless you have made a horrible mistake, you're in gamma, or they're just that low. I mean, it's easy to make that mistake, though. I make it all the time. Hey, I'm in a ship. I'm going to charge at you. That's not how you play the Widows, Arid. No.
Yeah, I definitely would like to see the Vulture, since it's the majority of its offense, be actual offense and not a cheap trick.
Yeah, it's a ship that has the potential to do a lot, but the ability for it to reach that potential right now is really not there. Because the point defense is going to be good enough to take out most of those missiles unless you're right on top of somebody. I know one game I had. No, it was the last game I had on my stream yesterday. I was playing the Black Widow and fighting somebody in the Venture. I was tired and I wasn't having a good game, so I was being too salty. So I was closing in really close to this Venture. And every time I would, use my vultures, whatever missiles are into, I can't keep these names straight. Horus missiles, use the vulture missiles, use the Horus missiles, and then start to use my third missiles. And as soon as, my Horus missiles were done firing the very last one, the Venture would use his defense bubble and completely negate my ability to do anything. And it's just oh my god.
That's kind of the other thing. I've talked to members of the community who were asking my opinion. I mean, I've known as really enjoying me some stealth ships.
Yeah.
And one of the things is, I think we could make it so you could honestly make these vultures Kingfisher speed with regular missile turning and still have that high damage. It would become a pub stomper, a bit like the Ghost, but there are already so many abilities beyond just point defense that counter missiles. I just don't see, you could really crank this ship up in its damage potential with the missiles, and it's really not going to do anything because you're going to have a Raven or something else on your team to pin them down and prevent those other abilities from being used before you can even have the potential for that abuse to come in. And at that point, you're now comboing with other ships, and you're getting into the territory of, okay, yeah, so the Raven Black Widow team is really strong, but is it stronger than the Hunter Disruptor? Or the Brawler Protector? That's... Even if it was as strong as those, that would still be fine. You'd have to be at the point where the Black Widow would pretty much one-shot a ship with 2 of its 3 missiles before I think you could really say the Vulture or the Widow Raven combo or Widow Displacer or whatever was at the point of some of the other 2-man comps.
Yeah, it would basically have to be the old Ghost by itself before it would really start to be truly threatening, especially with the fact that that cloak will turn itself off if somebody gets close enough. Because it's really easy to miss somebody and they stray just close enough to where you get revealed for a second, and that's all it takes.
The number of times I've been at Gamma and just putting down harassing missile fire on people who are fighting in there while staying well out of range, and just so happened an enemy ship jumped and landed right next to me as I cloaked, or, I had been sitting there cloaked for the last 30 seconds, not announcing my position.
Yep.
Somebody landed at the jump point near me, and there goes my cloak. Oh, it's an enforcer. Well, I'm dead.
Yeah. It's got these clear weaknesses and not a whole lot of strength. I mean, it's not a bad ship. It
Yeah,
just doesn't feel very good right now. Seriously, just fixing the Vulture missiles, I think, would change that.
yeah. I think
Just
it would go a long way, and then I think at that point we'd have to stop and let the community work on realizing uh, when it needs that. Well, that it needs to activate other counters beyond point defense to stop the missile barrage, and when it needs to do that in its folly, and let the Widow players learn to counteract that, and let the community grow and understand what's happening, and then we could look at doing more balance changes beyond that, and then slowly working it up to where I think it needs to be. Yeah, I definitely don't think we should just drop a whole bunch of different buffs on the Black Widow and call it a day. Even if, at the end, we would still have those same buffs. I think the community needs to learn how to deal with it as it grows and let the community grow into the changes.
yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see what gets changed on the Black Widow, because I think it runs the risk of becoming a little bit of a gimmick ship, kind of like the Paragon.
Yeah.
It's like, ah, yeah, I challenge you to play the Black Widow. Ha 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 ha. You're gonna have a horrible time, right? Yeah, and if you know how to use a ship, you're not gonna have a horrible time, of course. But the majority of the community is gonna go, well, why would you? You've got to. You could take the Ghost. You could take the Ghost or the Infiltrator or some other stealth ship, which TDS still needs a stealth
vastly
ship.
superior.
Yeah, it runs that risk of becoming a joke ship, and it's got
Destroy forever the joke.
not anymore. Destroyer serious business now, thankfully.
Oh, are you sure about that?
Yes,
Um,
yes.
when
It
Frontline came out and people were being forced into it, there was a lot of people who actually stood there and went, it's not as garbage as we think it is. It just needs to be at the right place, which is hard for it to do. But especially in Frontline, where you can just jump straight into the action, you're always there, always in range of somebody.
Yes.
Yeah, when that's the
it's-
case, it's a monster.
When it has absolutely perfect conditions, it's a monster. But what makes it terrible in normal circumstances is it's slow. Its ordinances are slow. Its tracking is slow. If anything gets within like 5,000 meters of it, well, forget about shooting that and just fly circles around you. If it has support, the support will normally die. It can't do much to help the support against medium ships. Everything points to the destroyer just being not as special as it should be.
I've said this in the past, and unfortunately, for whatever reason, it didn't happen with this iteration of the new forward stations. Those panels on the forward stations now are actually supposed to be destructible, but there was some sort of problem with them, so that their destructibility did not make it in to the December patch. But once that comes in, that one little thing right there, I think will strengthen the destroyer quite a bit more, because people won't be able to just chill behind their screen anymore. They will actually have to worry about the destroyer coming to get them. I mean, the destroyer's already
that'll give it a purpose.
yeah, the destroyer's already really good at sieging those turrets at on the home base now, because with 25-kilometer range, I mean that puts you in an arc to hit maybe half of them, maybe even more than half of them.
Of the external,
Provided you position yourself right, and that's insane. No other ship can do that.
Watchmen and Overseer.
Besides the Watchman and Overseer, but they'll get
Or
eaten alive.
Gladiator. That gladiator just stops caring and she's like, "Hey, I'm a gladiator,"
No, the gladiator is only kept in line by the fact that it only has like a 12K max range. Its
Yes.
optimal is only 8, as opposed to what is it, 15 for the destroyer?
Yes.
1525, yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Okay. Actually, that moves on to a really good one. The new home bases. They have a lot of turrets, and they don't have a giant main cannon like we
kind of skipped the overseer.
we did not. Oh, that's right. It's been a while since you haven't been here for the overseer.
You already did the overseer.
Yeah, we did the
Okay,
overseer
you
and
did the overseer.
and the displacer. Those came in. Those came in together.
Continue on. New home bases.
Okay. But we now have the new home base, which we were told was going to have a big main cannon and a whole bunch of little turrets, and it seems they instead went for a whole bunch of medium turrets, which eat you alive, eat everybody alive. They are incredibly accurate. The only ships you have a chance of not getting hit in are really small, fast ones. Other than that, you're eaten.
I've been able to dodge fire consistently in all the lights and the vast majority of the fire in all the mediums, but it was a case where I could not defend myself. I couldn't shoot at them. I couldn't, especially if the ship had firing arcs. All I could do was defend, and I'm just basically buying time as a distraction at something to be shot at.
Yeah.
Which, they're actually, I really like how strong they are, and I really like how accurate they are. You can dodge them from 15K, but you're not putting in nearly enough fire to make it worthwhile. They'll hit you a lot harder at 15K than pretty much every ship that can even attack from that range can throw back down range at the turrets. But they won't target you from that range unless you start putting fire into them, which is good. It lets you actually get into the closer ranges before they light you up, and at that point it is a beast because they just hit so hard and they are accurate.
Yeah,
they like to melt ships.
Yeah, and they also for those of you that don't know, even if you don't have the sector-wide cloak disable scan going on, they can still see you while you're cloaked.
Yeah.
So cloak. If you attack them and you cloak up, you're still gonna get shot at. It's just too bad. Sucks to be you.
They'll stop after a couple shots if you're too far away, but yeah, like if you're in a widow, fire your missiles, duck behind a rock, then cloak, wait for everything to stop shooting, poke your head out again.
Yeah, and that is something I really like. I really think is good because it still allows cloak ships to be little rat bastards and come in and chew on your base, but they have to be so careful to do it. Like, I don't think I don't know if I've tested it or not, but I know the ambush doesn't work on the beacons on the forward base. So I would imagine that it also doesn't work on the turrets in the home base.
Does it not work on the beacons in Conquest? Because they do on Frontline.
Yeah, it didn't seem to do anything on Conquest. It seemed to do just as much damage, which personally I don't have a problem with. The ghost should be allowed to certainly murder the crap out of enemy ships, but he shouldn't get free objectives.
Yeah.
You know?
Not in single volley poofs like it likes to do to things.
Yeah. That's good. Now they just need to figure out what to do with the enforcer on objectives to kill, so that it's not completely useless. Unless they fix that, and I just haven't been made aware.
As far as I know, they haven't.
Okay. So good on the ghost, bad on the enforcer. Um, what else? Oh yeah, we can actually talk about the beacons on the forward base. New destructible elements on the section on the backs of every single forward base that increase the vision range of the forward base. Forward bases naturally have a 5 kilometer view range, but with that beacon on the back of them, they have a 15 kilometer view range. Even if you capture a forward base, those beacons still work for are still counted as the enemy's stuff, so they can still see you. But if you destroy them, you deprive the enemy team of vision. That gives you an objective to work towards other than just capping the forward bases, which is good. I'm
I
really
find if I'm in range and unless there's another ship breathing down my neck, I'll even prioritize fire on that beacon in the early game over the enemy ship coming towards me. I'd rather deprive them of that, basically that sentry ward, that vision, than duke it out with the ship and maybe do an extra couple hundred points of damage to him. Because that vision is way critical come mid to late game.
it really is, and it kind of brings the question to me of, does this thing need to respawn? Because currently it doesn't. Currently it just, if you kill it, you kill it. If you don't, it stays there forever. Should it come back? Because, it feels really shitty to, at the start of the game, lose your beacon and you are down 10 kilometers worth of vision for the next 17 to in freaking infinity minutes, because that's how the game seems to be going now. Is they're either really quick or they last forever. Not that that's necessarily bad in and of itself. That's just how it is right now, right?
See, and I think it's good because it gives. It used to be that if I successfully pushed down the lane to the point where I could cap your forward base, I could jump in, pressure your mines in your home sector, do some harass, force you to kind of bring people in. You had to do something eventually. Now, instead of having to cap that forward base, I can just poke your beacon, which is good. But if we didn't have that, or if it wasn't nearly as punishing, then losing that lane, I can't really derive an advantage, especially after that third mine, because I'm not strong enough yet to go in and tango with those turrets on your home base, let alone try and actually get some capture points in on it. So it feels, and I've seen in a lot of my games where a team will push to that third mining station and not really do anything at that point. They might sit there and they'll hold it, or they might jump back and go for repairs, or they'll just wait for gas, because they don't feel that pushing forward and capping that forward base is a worthwhile objective. Whereas in truth, that beacon is a worthwhile objective. Once it's down, yes, okay, there's nothing in the lane, but I don't know, I think that it's a little bit more pressure for the team that's losing that lane to pick up the pace and actually get something done there. Bring people over, whatever the issue is.
Yeah. Oh.
I mean, I could see giving it respawn basically being a respawn of that mechanic of the something to shoot at, but then, I don't know, that kind of feels like you're just respawning a target for me to smack, a pinata for me to hit.
Maybe if there were also not the full size turret batteries like we have on the home base, but like on either side of the forward base had like half of one of those batteries, so that would have a little bit of defense on its own. So that way you just didn't, hey, I get a free objective, right?
Yeah.
Because it feels bad to just have something that you can't prevent. We've all been in those situations where the rest of your team lemmings down one lane and you're in the other, sitting there going, guys, just defend, we're gonna push. guys, there's 5 of them here. Guys, you
Your
can't.
friend, you can do it.
Yeah, yeah, and
You can hold off all 5.
they're gonna get that bit of vision, and that's something that you know. Admittedly, if you're in that kind of position early on, you're probably not going to win the match anyway. But that's an objective that you can't defend. It has no defense itself, and since it doesn't come back, that's just you lose. You lose. Period. The end. There's no way to recover from that. And I would like for there to be some way to recover. I would like the ability for supports to come in and repair it.
I believe they can. They can repair the.
Well, once it's down.
Oh, once it's destroyed.
Yeah. Once it's down. I mean, yeah, you can come in and spot heal right now and get it back up, but it's only got like 2,000 health, and that's like 2 volleys for most ships, if that.
Yeah, well,
Right.
like when I floated in there with the Gladiator in the earlier match, you're like, hey, kill that thing. It's like, okay, float down, kill it in about 5 seconds. Okay, it's dead.
Yeah, and then that's 10 kilometers worth of vision that you've denied the enemy team for the rest of the match. And for most people, they might not see that as a big deal, but it really is. That is a huge amount of time. You've cut the warning by 2/3 on that forward base. And I think that there should be some way to bring it back. Maybe you have to sit there in the forward base when after you yourself are fully repaired. You can then sit there and kind of provide materials for the forward base to rebuild that. So you have to sit there for another period of time in order to get this objective back. But I mean, it's still something that can be killed very easily.
Maybe having it something like that, where if you take time of your gameplay to bring it back online, then you can, but it doesn't do it on its own.
Yeah.
Even if you take the forward base, you're going to still have to sit there for another 30 seconds or something significant. And yeah, okay, now you got your 10k vision back until the next time it gets blown up.
Yeah. I mean, that would give you. That would give people another support thing that they could do, right? Because, I mean, we've all been in that situation where you're playing a support ship and it's like, okay, nobody else is going to go capture this, so I'm going to go capture this, and then I'm going to go back, and I'm going to feel like I'm wasting time because these guys should have done it. You could go there and also get your vision back. It feels like you're actually accomplishing something other than patching a hole that has been opened up by, the enemy team. It makes you feel like you're adding towards the effort rather than just subtracting from theirs, which is good. Okay.
Stop yawning.
I can't. I don't know what's wrong with me.
It's contagious.
Sarah started it.
Hey, whatever. I just woke up, so. So after forward bases, what else can we move on to?
Upgrade?
Upgrade system. Yes! Oh, delicious upgrade system. So currently in the game, at levels 3, 6, and 9, you are stopped from leveling up until you pick one of 3 upgrades. Currently, you can pick offense, defense, or utilities, and you will get various boosts to your stats based on that. Offense, you fire faster, you do more damage, your weapons have shorter cooldowns. Defense, you get more health, you take less damage, your armor's beefier. Utility, you recharge energy faster, and your non-offensive abilities come off of cooldown sooner. We're currently running into problems where that UI is apparently not popping up for a lot of players, and they're sitting there at level 2 the whole game and not doing anything. And that kind of sucks, but it's a bug.
There were also
Honestly, I
issues
didn't
that
even
have been
notice
fixed.
the UI element.
Yeah, I mean,
It's there if you know it's going to be there. Otherwise, it just kind of fades into the background a bit, and it's kind of like, oh, what's this? Oh, it's the upgrade system. Okay, are these the buttons I'm supposed to push for? They're not denoted as such clearly. Okay, they're giant letters. All right, I guess I'm supposed to push the button. And the main issue I've always had with the UI is clarity.
Mm-hmm.
It's never had the appropriate amount of clarity so far, and they're getting better,
Mm-hmm.
but it's a slow road, and they keep making these deviations into things that are not as clear as they should be,
Mm-hmm.
or just don't click as fast as they should.
Mm-hmm.
But if you know it's there, you can understand how it works, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, if you know it's there, then yeah, it's fine. But
So
me, as someone being introduced to the upgrade system for the first time today, since I have been away for a little while, was like, how do I upgrade? Because it had been that long. I had reverted to that original noob in the flagship going, how upgrade, how do? But yeah, no, it's off in the corner where it should be. You know, it doesn't need to be interfering, but it's there in a way that doesn't let someone that's new to the system know exactly what it's for, or know what they need to push, or know why they're pushing it, or even if they're going to get held back because they don't choose to upgrade right away.
Mm-hmm.
I think having that as being something of the I can't remember what it's called, proving grounds.
Mm-hmm.
Having that as a clear section that's gone over the proving grounds, especially if, and I know some people don't like this, but making the proving grounds mandatory before you can get into a game,
Mm-hmm.
so that when you're in a match, you've seen how the UI element functions, and it's been explained to you what's going on there. So it's just kind of a, hey, remember, B for attack, N for defense, M for utility.
Mm-hmm.
I think that could fix the problem.
That would certainly go a long way towards it. Maybe also something to help scream at players when the UI element actually pops up. Because like Fox was saying, unless you know that it's there, it is a little bit hard to see because it is all the way on the left side of your screen. So it is very much it's very much out of the way from where you're normally looking, unless you're a heavy chatter, and not everybody is. Lots of people don't say a word in chat and never look at the chat box. So it is kind of something you have to go out of your way to do. Maybe make it flash or something, or have an extra element that pops up specifically when you're in a forward base or a home base or something that's right in the center of your screen. Hey, B and M, pick one. Just pick one, right? At the very least, that would get them to press the buttons and maybe go, okay, what's going on here? Oh, look, there's a B and M off to the left side of my screen. It's got descriptions. Maybe I should read those, right? Versus what we have right now, which is perfectly good, but just doesn't draw enough attention to itself, and maybe isn't as clear as it could be with regards to communicating what you need to do. Maybe just the simple addition of the word press under each of the letters would be enough to
Or
communicate.
above the column,
Yeah, just
something.
lots and lots of little things. UI is as much an art as it is a skill set. But currently in its current iteration, it's still a very simple system where you're just choosing kind of like, okay, what do you want to be slightly better at? Okay, more raw damage, more raw defense, more raw energy regen and cooldown, which is fine. If I'm remembering my information correctly, I've heard that this system will eventually be fleshed out to where it's something slightly more specialized for each ship. So maybe instead of buying different loadouts and then picking them before the match starts, maybe you will have like 3 loadouts for your main weapon, and at level 3 you get to pick a different main weapon. It's like, okay, do I want a more powerful version of what I've got, or do I want a plasma version, or do I want a heavy version which does even more damage than the standard powered up version, but is big and slow or whatever. So I'm really really interested on how that's going to end up being fleshed out, how that's going to end up interacting with the side grade system that's currently in the game, because making those two things play together in a way that makes sense and also doesn't have the potential of being massively overpowered is quite frankly going to be a huge challenge. I don't I don't envy the designers having to work on all of that. I would be very interested to hear about it, and would love to just sit there and listen to them talk. But yeah, that's going to be a big challenge to have to work through. Then what else do we need to? I know what we can move on to. Cash shop items. We have two new cash shop items in the game in the form of a credit boost and an XP boost. Currently, the way these work is you pay, I think it's 220 for the credit boost and 110 for the XP boost, and they only come in packs of 4. But currently, the way it works is you buy your boosts and they just sit there. You have as many boosts as you buy, and at the end of a match, there are use booster buttons for XP and credits, and it tells you exactly how much those boosters are worth. Currently, I believe it is credits and as much credits and XP as you would earn before any modifiers like premium ship or founder bonus or first win of the day comes in, and you can use those to help boost you through stuff. Personally, I actually like this better than like premium time and stuff, because it allows you to be more selective. Because I mean, we've all been in situations where we've got like, oh, we've been gifted 2 hours of premium time, to whet the palate and get you to buy more, and then you you don't do good for that 2 hours, and it feels like it's wasted. It doesn't encourage you to get more. Whereas with boosts that you can sit on and choose to use however you want, it's okay. This brand new ship has come out. I want that, so I'm gonna spam, whatever manufacturer, and I need extra XP, so I'm gonna hit that XP boost every time I do well, so I can get the ship that much faster. I think that ends up working better. They're also priced very low, so that you don't really have to spend a whole lot. You have something to throw your pennies at, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think currently with the way the skins are priced, you generally end up with enough to buy either a credit boost or 2 XP boost, whichever is priced differently. Which I think works out. It gives you the ability to zero out your credits, which is not something a whole lot of games do, and honestly,
it's definitely
feels
something
good.
you don't usually get with premium time.
Yeah.
Control over your boosts and the ability to zero out your premium currency.
Mm-hmm.
Two things you don't usually see.
Yeah. I remember posting. Gosh, it was almost a year ago. Posting a suggestion about something and complaining about like my riot points in League of Legends. I had 35 RP in my account, and you can't do anything with 35 RP in League of Legends. I still have that 35 RP in my League of Legends account. I've had it for like 2 years, and I can't do anything with it until I give them more money. And that feels bad. It quite frankly feels like they're stealing from me, because that's 35 units of currency that I can't do anything without unless I give them more money. And it's a slimy trick to use, and I understand why it's there. I mean, business is business. You got to make your money because you got to pay your people, because people got to eat, all that good stuff. But it doesn't feel good because you can't use it all.
It feels like you make a purchase that's $9.95, and you hand them a $10 bill, and they say, "Thank you, come again."
Exactly.
And you're like, "But you owe me a nickel." But I'm going to keep the nickel. But you owe me the nickel. I don't want to give you the nickel. But you owe me the nickel.
Yeah.
I want the nickel. Yes, it might be tedious and it might not be worth pretty much anything, but I want my nickel.
Yeah, and hearing, oh, well, your next burger's going to be 5 cents off. Well, that's nice. You're just going to keep the dime next time, right?
Yeah. The nickel and the 2 pennies next time.
Ah, gee, thanks. Right, if I eat here for another 6 months, I can get a free meal. Awesome. That's not good. That's not good. And I like to see that there is, at least with Fractured Space, a chance that you can zero out your premium currency, because that will be like it'll feel fair. It'll feel like, okay, I've spent my money and I can spend all of the currency that you've given me, so this feels like an equivalent exchange because you've treated me this well. Because you've said, yeah, we're not going to dick you over like this. We're not going to try and use these psychological tricks on you. I'm more likely to spend money with you again.
Where you feel that 10-cent off sale is actually, or 10 cent, the 10% off sale is actually worth something because you will be able to use that 10 cents percent.
Yeah.
Wow, I'm having issues with that.
Yeah, and
it might not be, to purchase another skin, but down the road you might be able to pick up a couple of boosters.
And that's great. I really like that. I don't know of any other free to play game that's even attempting something like this. I mean, maybe they exist out there, but I haven't heard of them for sure.
The closest I know of is Heroes of the Storm, where they just give you a flat dollar amount. This is what this is worth, and then you're paying with the specific amount of currency, which would be cool too. Don't get me wrong. If EdgeCase would like to go to that,
yeah,
I'm all for that. It's a heck of a lot better feeling to look at $7.38 on my credit card than look at 35 riot points sitting there staring me in the face, going ha ha.
Yeah. So I'm very happy with the booster situation as it stands. Maybe in the future, of course, we're going to get to the point where, when you have everything and you're sitting on just gobs of XP and currency, we'll need some sort of sync. Some more stuff to spend money on, but it's good.
Still waiting for my solid gold hunter skin. Got to blow that 10 million credits on something.
Well, you are a solid gold skin is coming. With the I think it's with the reset. Is the bronze, silver, and gold starter ships are coming in depending on what level you've reached. If you're level 20 or above, you get all three. The bronze skin is level 5, the silver skin is level 10, the gold skin is level 20. And there's actually apparently not a whole lot of people that are over level 20, which really surprised me.
Yeah,
Yep.
I've seen tons, but I guess that's just the tons that actively play.
Yeah.
Because remember the gigantic influx we got over the first free weekend?
Mm-hmm.
That was huge. It was a lot of people, and then they downloaded the game, played it once, and then never touched it again.
Yeah.
So I guess
We've
they
also-
counted towards the metric.
Yeah.
We also have gotten a lot of new players in the last 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
And part of it is, the fall and winter sales. Part of it, there were a few YouTubers who picked up, clips of the game, showed it off, and a few different things. Insomnia, I think, helped.
Mm-hmm.
But we've gotten a pretty good influx of players, so I think that's also part of what's throwing that percentage. And like you said, Fox, I see a lot of people who are generally level 20 or above. I see a significant chunk that are 50, in fact.
Mm-hmm.
But that's likely more of a case of the groups I'm playing with than
Yes.
a fair assessment of the community.
Yeah, I generally do the whole pug thing since I pretty much only play during streams, and I see plenty of people that are in the mid to high teens, and a couple of folks every once in a while that are over level 20, but anything more than say 22, 23, that's generally not something you see a whole lot of. So I remember one game the other day where somebody kept hunting me down, and the victory screen or the defeat screen came up, and I saw that they were level 40. I was like, oh, yeah. I stop changing your names, people. Just stick with whatever name you have. That's as close to smurfing as you can get. Smurfing bad. That's something we can talk about. Um, Protagonist on the forums has said that smurfing is not something that is going to be allowed. That's as close to unofficial word as I have heard, that there will be no smurfing in fractured space. Um,
Smurfing will be treated like cheating.
ooh.
I
We
believe that's what he said.
we should probably define
Yeah,
smurfing
yeah,
to
yeah.
those that do not understand that terminology.
For those of you that have not encountered the term smurfing before, smurfing is a practice done by people who already have an account. What they will do is you have an account, you play it for a while, and then you either say, okay, I'm going to move to a new account, or I just want a low level account to beat up on newbies with, and you create an entirely different account. What this is generally used for is people, like to have better stats on their account so they look better. You get experienced and you don't have the hundreds of losses, where you were still learning the game, that sort of thing. Or they want to just trash newbies, which, both of those scenarios I can understand, but I don't really agree with, because that ends up ruining the lower levels for a lot of people. We've all been in games where we're just starting out, we're just trying to learn, and some really high level person just continuously grinds our face into the pavement, and you get a bad impression of that game, and you never go back to it. We've all done that, and that is something that needs to be avoided. And smurfing, no smurfing in fractured space will help that. Um, so I'm very glad to see that smurfing is being taken very, very seriously for fractured space. I've had it ruin other games for me, and I'm glad to see it shouldn't be impacting this one.
So
Now, see,
I've
this
got
is where it becomes an issue. Before you continue, Jiraiya, with stopping smurfing, there's not a lot they can do. Be it, since you fractured space runs on your Steam client, of course, it's tied to your Steam ID. Okay, that's fine. Make another Steam account. Okay, well, how are they going to detect someone is smurfing in this aspect? Because you can have multiple Steam accounts per IP address. People use different Steam accounts for different things. And if they start, throwing the ban hammer at multiple Steam accounts coming from the same address connecting to their server, well, they're just, putting the boot down on someone's brother that just started playing the game and is doing exceedingly well for themselves. There's not really anything you can do to stop this. I mean, even a person that has access to a rudimentary VPN will go like, okay, well, they don't like my native IP. I'm just going to hop over to Brazil right quick and play my Steam through there. Doesn't hurt my ping any. Play a game just fine, smurf all I want. So him saying there's going to be absolutely no smurfing in this game is a farce.
It's of course just, I mean, on its face,
It's
not
frowned upon.
Yeah.
It's not encouraged. It's not welcomed. If we find out you're doing it, of course we're going to ban you. However, there's no way for them to know for sure.
Yeah, I mean, realistically, there's nothing as a like a foolproof plan. It's just not realistic, straight up.
Right.
But just the fact that they've acknowledged that it exists and they're going to do something about it is not something I've ever seen done in a game before. I know I'm a relatively enthusiastic League player over the years. I've had my ranked experience in that game ruined by Smurfs
Oh
before,
yeah, countless.
and Riot has come out and said, yeah, I mean, it sucks that this happens, but we're not gonna do anything about it because it destroys X, Y, and Z parts of the community, and we want that stuff to exist. I think they were talking about like people who do guides, how to get from bronze to platinum or whatever, and
Yeah,
stuff like
yeah.
that. People who stream ladder climbs, and I just don't agree with that. Maybe there's got to be some other way to deal with that than just allowing rampant smurfing.
So, since we've been talking about protagonists' comments, I just kind of wanted to read off the important part of his post.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. So we can be clear, and so we're making sure we're not misquoting him here.
Mm-hmm.
So let me see the appropriate section here. Creating a new account to bypass your MMR, that's your matchmaker rating,
Mm-hmm.
and get a game that is entirely self-serving and gives no benefit to the development of the game or anyone else in the community.
Mm-hmm.
We do not make it difficult for veteran players to get a game because we get a laugh out of it. We don't do it deliberately at all. It happens because there are very few of you. Initiatives like the Fraction Space Academy are excellent and generally a positive step to be creating more players who can hang out with the elite, but my understanding is that trainers are getting harder to come by. Let me see the specific section here. I can't find where he says.
Control F is your friend.
Yeah, and I couldn't find it when I was looking for it. I think I'm forgetting the exact phrasing he used. If you're looking for it, it is on the forums. You can find it from protagonist comments. He pretty clearly says that it's not going to be something to put up with.
Yeah.
But like Fox said, it's going to have
It's
to be
something that's
seen what they
completely-
can actually do about it.
It's unavoidable, and at the most, they could launch an investigation against the suspected client without taking any sort of, overbound actions, banning the client when it could just be someone's brother in the same house that's good at it, etc.
Yeah, I mean that's of course stuff that you would hope they would go through anyway. Nobody wants to see the banhammer slung around just recklessly.
Right.
Nobody wants anybody to get banned for no reason. Nobody does. As much as we love seeing somebody get knocked out of the park because they were, a turd in chat or something, or were hacking or whatever. You don't want to see anybody's little brother get it because he happens to live in the same house as his big brother. That would suck. I personally have no idea how that would end up being determined, but I'm pretty sure the folks that are going to be dealing with that are smarter than me. So, so yes, smurfing not appreciated. At least for now. That may change. That may change in the future.
Unavoidable, not appreciated, frowned upon.
Yeah. So, hopefully, I hope that stance does not change.
Yeah.
Yes.
Once
something
the game
I know-
goes free to play.
We've done in Loa, and I'm sure that other clients have something on it, is we actually have specifically in our code of conduct, no Smurfs are allowed in the clan. So if you are a person who creates a Smurf and goes and plays it, there's really no way we can enforce that. We can't really know that you're not doing it. But if nothing else, we're saying that you don't get to just roll a new account as Smurf and join the clan and run the tag. We're not going to put up with that. So, I mean, I think the community in general is against it. There are some people who are doing it, but I don't think it'll remain something that the community accepts for very long.
Yeah, all of the people that I've talked to that have explicitly told me, yeah, I have a Smurf. They didn't do it because they just felt like having a Smurf, and I don't want to play my main account anymore. They did it to like when the matchmaker was turned on to try and have a reasonable queue time, or to avoid people like singling them out because they're a recognizable name from the forums or something, which are reasons that are perfectly understandable, even if
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I thought about doing it too. Like a couple months back, no, not a couple months, like 4 months ago now, when I was big into things in the community and very active and such. We'd go into games and we would be people we had played with the past day or so. Just the community's not that huge right now, and they'd be like, "Oh, it's them again. We're leaving. Oh, it's them again. We're leaving. Oh, it's them. We're gone. Change Steam name. Oh, they're level such and such. We can't fight that. Oh, they're level such and such. We can't fight that." And it's just streams of people leaving the matches over and over and over. It's just me and some friends sitting around like, "Oh, do we make low level accounts? Like this is nuts."
Yeah.
Yeah, and I have noticed if I run with like the Loa tag on, I get focus fired to hilarious extents, actually, watching people suicide past my entire team so that they can take a shot at me it's amusing, but after a while it gets a little frustrating and really boring.
Yeah.
So, but I don't feel I need to roll a Smurf for that. I just go in and take the tag off my name in Steam and go in as Jiraiya and play around. And the people in the community who know who I am will see my name, recognize it, and go, "Oh, I'm going to go hunt that jerk down and kill him a lot." But I don't have to deal with people seeing just the tag in front of my name and going, "Oh, it's a clanner. Let's suicide and kill him."
Yeah.
So the only thing I can acknowledge that smurfing helps with that you can't get around otherwise is the queue times, and the queue times suck.
Yeah,
Sucks for everyone.
Yeah, it's queue times are gonna get better once we get more people. I mean, that's just.
Although I will say, by going on your Smurf and getting out of that higher queue times for yourself, you're just making the queue time longer for those of us who don't. So, as somebody who sits in the high queue for 30 minutes waiting for a match, screw you.
Yeah. Definitely.
No, really, screw you.
Yeah.
Come sit in the queue, make my queue time shorter.
All right. So we've gone over the new ships, we've gone over the bases, we've gone over the new upgrade system. We're all hunky-dory. Is there anything else we want to wrap up on?
I'm trying to think if there's anything new outside of graphics. Everything looks better.
Everything is better.
Yeah.
New station models, new forward base models, new gas mining facilities, all made by the various modelers at EdgeCase. Thank you. They're very pretty. Most of the environments have been redone. We have new planets. They're all shiny and pretty, and it's wonderful. And the environment is really starting to feel like a proper battleground and properly different between the sectors. So good on you guys.
Yeah.
It's pretty great.
Yeah.
I think one last thing probably worth mentioning that didn't quite get the exposure on the forums I think it deserved. Protagonist mentioned that the more minute ship balancing, pretty much unless it is, say, an extreme outlier like the Pioneer or the Paragon, everything else for balance is going to be delayed until they've got the ships and the different loadouts in, which is currently planned for the earliest would be March. So for all the Hunter OP complaints or all the people desperately wishing for Ghost to be viable again, oh please, EdgeCase, please, love me. Wait till March. Paragon's probably going to get an earlier rework about the time they're going to be adding in carriers for the other two manufacturers. Other than that, don't expect big balance change workarounds unless it's to fix something really clearly broken. And then March rolls around, and they're probably going to spend a full sprint rebalancing all the ships, all the loadouts, making everything viable. And that's about the time they're going to start polishing, and we should see a release sometime after that.
That'll be a really exciting time. Maybe spend a couple months in beta, make sure everything can survive the huge influx of players, and then we'll hit release, and then we will all live happily ever after.
Stress test weekend.
Yeah, I want to live happily ever after. Anybody know a prince with a white horse I can ride off into the sunset with?
I know of Prince, not personally, but I know of him.
Okay. Well.
That's as close as I got, sorry.
Oh well. Figured I'd try. Anyway.
Canada has royalty. Just move up there.
Alright. So, I think that's it for the December patch. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you, Drya and Fox, for being here as always.
Hey, rambling.
Yeah. We will see you guys on the next Duckworks. Yeah. Bye.
And
Bye.